So, hello and welcome to MS Endpoint Manager meets Microsoft. This is the episode 1 where we meet Lavanya, and it's great and an honor to have you here, Lavanya. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to
Absolutely.
be here on the show with you both.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Like Matthias just said, this is our first episode in a new series that we call MS Endpoint Manager meets Microsoft. We have our first honorable guests. And Lavanya, what is it that we're going to talk about?
We're going to talk about settings insight and anomaly detection. These were some of the core releases as part of 2308. But before we do a little bit of deep dive into each of these areas, I'll do a quick introduction about myself in case folks were wondering who has Matthias and Nicholas invited to their show and what am I going to talk about. Trust me, I'm going to talk about a little bit of the cool guys and Eminem alongside the awesome features. But yeah, I am the PM lead on the Intune team. I focus on the AI analytics, and it is super fun to be talking to you about some of the cool features backed by AI ML. And we are going to get started as soon as the boss of the show says we are ready.
So
Nice.
I think that's you, Matthias, right?
Oh, I am the boss. So, okay, just
You're the
as
boss.
we agreed. So, okay, so you two put me as the boss in the show. Thank you so much. Yeah, but it's really nice, Lavanya, to have you on the show, and we really look forward to look more into settings insights and anomaly detection. So we already covered some of this in Nikolai's What's News in Intune that we do every month. It was the 2307, as I recall. We saw it first time, settings insights on security baselines, and we really thought that was a cool feature to actually get some learnings from other customers what they set in security baselines. So tell us about this stuff.
Oh, you really want me to tell you about them? Then you have to hear more about the cool guys. All right, we're going to kickstart this session learning about some cool features. But before that, why don't you all just bring in your drink and some M&Ms so that we have a very interactive session? And I'm hoping Matthias and Nicholas, you're not going to give me a hard time with tough questions, but we are going to get a lot of love with some awesome questions and thinking through some of these product features. So with that, why don't I quickly jump into 2308 announcements and what we really shared? So it was two main features that were driven by AI and ML, other than other announcements that was part of 2308. And you must be wondering, didn't Matthias just say 2307 and Lavanya is saying 2308? The reason for that is settings insight. Yes, we did open it up to our customers in 2307. The reason we made the announcement in 2308 is because of some cool testing and controlled rollout that we did for our customers, which is what we call as the A/B testing and control feature rollout. So we were able to experiment that with the settings insight feature, and hence the name and the release kind of came together as part of 2308 announcement. I really wanted to give the host a little bit of a hard time. He wanted settings insight, and I said, I'm going to do anomaly detection. So why don't we start with anomaly detection feature, and then we will talk more about settings insight. How does that sound, Nicholas? Is that a good way to keep our boss happy?
I think the boss will be very happy. So let's continue for sure.
As long as we learn something, I'm really
Yes.
thrilled. Yes.
We want to learn. Well, Matthias knows everything.
Absolutely.
So, but I can learn at
Awesome.
least.
Okay. Love it. Okay. And anywhere that I don't know, I'm going to ask Matthias to chime in and help cover the topic for us. So I think I have a plan B in place. So now, why don't we deep dive into anomaly detection and what anomaly detection is? But before that, some sneak peek into what kind of led to anomaly detection as a product feature and what was like the thinking behind the scenes. I met with various customers after joining this team, and also kind of try to get feedback into prior conversations with customers to understand what is it that's missing, what is it that they wanted to see. They were like, oh, Intune Admin Center has amazing information about endpoints, but then if there is something that needs to be looked into from an endpoint urgency standpoint, we don't have any such features in Intune. Is that something that we can kind of have it available so that it makes our life easy? That kind of was a starting point to think through how we bring in all the issues that our customers see in their ecosystem, within their tenants, and how do we kind of bring all of those information together. Because if you think about it, if you have way too many information in one tenant, then it's a lot of information. So is there something we can do behind the scenes as a magic and then provide you with more of some key areas for you to look at and take action? Would have been the ideal way, and that's exactly what we did with Anomaly Detection. Here what we do is we kind of leverage our model behind the scenes to first understand what are the different ways to bring all of these issues together, is where the detection piece kind of comes into picture. And again, based on the number of devices affected due to an issue, is how we identify an anomaly, right? And again, think about anomaly as a deviation of a existing scenario, deviation from the norm, to be able to identify some kind of a discrepancy, some kind of a deviation in the data point, to kind of help understand what's going on with the endpoint. Based on these nuances is how we came up with various levels of identifying anomalies, which is high, medium, low, and informational. Now you can tell me, oh, where did we upgrade and all of them are affected by the update? And we are like, yes, that's where we kind of identify them as a low severity anomaly. But as you kind of look into those anomalies, it is a good indicative to say how eventually it can translate into a medium severity anomaly, or even a high severity anomaly. Again, am I just going to be presenting this as part of the slide? No, we are going to really look at the actual demo of how it works in the product and also understand something very important, right? Leveraging some of the key attributes of the devices and combining them together is where frequent pattern matching happens. And then eventually taking it to the next level of understanding what are the devices that is affected by these patterns. And again, what are the ML models that's leveraged behind the scenes to identify these patterns and come up with device cohorts also, is something that we are going to talk about in just a bit, right? Two important areas that we have heard front and center from our customers that we have prioritized as part of detection is your stop error restarts, which in the previous life was commonly known as the BSOTs, and also the apps hangs and crashes. With that, Matthias and Nicholas, are you ready to see what the working of anomaly detection in our product looks like?
Yes,
Absolutely.
please.
And show me how I can
Okay,
see what blue screens that I have.
perfect. Okay,
It's
so
a
this
green
is our
screen now.
Intune admin
All
center.
right.
Hey, come on, let's not talk about the colors. We just say stop error restarts. That's the new nomenclature. So within the reports blade, let's select the endpoint analytics. And we have kind of made it easy here. We have not gone to any kind of an L2 navigation because anomalies is kind of front and center, and it's important for you all to take a look at it, which is kind of why we have these anomalies in the overview blade itself. And again, we're kind of really cutting through the noise. We are just surfacing what's important. And here we see some high severity anomalies, medium, and if there were any low severity anomalies, it would have shown up here. And also, importantly, the status column, right? The status column is indicative of whether these are new anomalies or these are more of an active anomaly that has existed for a while and what we have already looked at, right? Now, Just trying to do few things here so that you can take a look at what the various views would look like depending on how you're sorting it. So you can sort it by the severity or you can sort it by the affected number of devices. It doesn't matter, right? Because it essentially all leads in the direction of the number of devices affected by an anomaly. So why don't we look at one of the high severity anomaly and what it leads to? Now, here is where we surface a lot of the metadata information which talks about what is the severity of the anomaly, what is the state, what are the number of devices, and the latest occurrence, right? Now, the first time an anomaly could have occurred about 3 or 4 days back, but there are a set of devices that is affected due to the same anomaly, but that anomaly has occurred as of today, right? That could be a day that it can show up. Now here, considering that it's just a test tenant, and because I will not be able to show a live tenant, the latest occurrence that's showing up here based on the data is 8:30. Now, you also are observing another important information, which is the analytical model behind the scenes that's leveraged to identify this anomaly, which is the threshold-based heuristic model. What is threshold-based heuristic model? When the number of devices has been affected by this anomaly breaches, let's say, 10% threshold, in context of the number of endpoints that exist for a tenant, you kind of leverage this threshold-based heuristic model. The other attribute could be more of a pairing or a time frame, right? Which could be more of, oh, in the last 48 hours, what were the devices that was affected due to an anomaly? That is where your time series kind of kicks in. Now, let's kind of dig deep a little more into understanding what the various device cohorts for this anomaly is. And again, if you're interested in learning more about this model, you can click on this. It takes you to the Intune documentation that talks about more of these models. Now, in this device correlation, you see that there are various factors that is leveraged to be able to identify the groups of devices. Now, devices, what they have in common here is more around the application. And the application name here is the chrome.exe with publisher information. And alongside that, you also have the app version. This is all great information. What you're seeing is there are about 6 of the 9 devices that is affected due to this applications contributing to this anomaly. And how is these groups selected? Because you see various aspects here, right? You have the again, devices that have something in common, which is around the application. Let's expand this and see what is different. As you can see here, because this is a test tenant data, the information that you see available here between the app version is exactly the same. But in real life scenario, the app versions that you will be seeing will be very different. Or it could be another set of factor that is being considered to identify this anomaly, which is what you see here, right? There is another factor. That means chrome.exe with this version exactly matches with what you see here, and that is one of the factors. But there is also another contributing factor, which could be another first party application that has a version listed out here, which is also contributing. That means it's a combination of 2 different applications that is crashing on several devices in the last 48 hours. Now, I'm going to come back to some of these groups in just a bit after we go through some of the other common contributors. It could be around your driver and an application, right? A driver X contributing to an application Y crash could be another anomaly, or it could be more around just the application in itself, or it could be an OS and an application combination, or an OS and a driver combination. The permutation combination here is quite significant. And once we have the permutation and combination kind of a little more zeroed in on top few contributors, like the way we see here, is where we look at the prevalence, right? How prevalent is this device cohort in context of the anomaly that we have been seeing, which is where this device prevalence occurs. And also there is an intuitive information that helps you at that point in time to understand, okay, what does medium prevalence means? I have never heard this. It is not available in any kind of documentation that Microsoft has published. You will be able to see that as part of the super tooltip, where it says it is a percentage of the affected devices within this anomaly and the members contributing to this device correlation. Um, with that, this is all great information. Now we really want to see affected devices in the specific group, or I can look at all the affected devices listed out here. Now here, this is a very important information. Again, the progression that you see here has happened in the last few months, where when we first introduced this feature, we didn't have the device cohorts. Device cohorts is the enhancement that we added as part of 2308, where it gave a lot more information around the contributing factors affecting the anomaly. Here you have important information that kind of tease in a lot of the attributes for the various endpoints, which could be in terms of the manufacturer or the model or the operating system. And if you really want to understand and look more deep into a given device, you could select a device and keeping fingers crossed, hoping everything works perfect. Ta-da, it worked. Now, this kind of leads you to the device timeline view, where it gives you insight into the various events that has been captured in context of this device that I have selected, and it talks about the informational level also. What will be interesting here is now what is the source of these events also kind of gets listed out here, and if there is a specific event that has contributed to an anomaly, you will see that source here also as Intune anomaly. So that way, what happens is as you look at the time series, as you look at the various events that has occurred on a given device, you know exactly what of this specific event has contributed to the anomaly. And this kind of helps look at it from an end-to-end perspective. That means I looked at Lavanya's device. I came into the device. I looked at the timeline. This is all great. Yes, I see some information. I see some errors. This is all great as I'm doing a device level troubleshooting. But then when I'm looking at it overall, thinking about it more as a top funnel view, as you look at the top of the funnel, you want to look at it from a tenant perspective and understand what are the various anomalies. And as you go deep dive into a specific anomaly, deep diving further into a device cohort, and then picking a device, you come back into this device timeline. So that way, what happens is you're able to get an end-to-end view. I know this is a lot of information, so I'm going to see if our awesome hosts have any questions for me or any area that they would like for me to dig deeper.
No, I don't have any questions, but just an add-on, and I really think that the information bar here about the device boot time and if there was a reboot and or if this was Windows Update causing this or not, it's like, yeah, that's quite useful if you want to drill down into the device. I really see the benefit of the anomaly detection as well, to be able to detect a fast pattern where you see this is what is in common of these devices.
Mhm.
The only thing I sit back with here is how do I remediate it?
Oh boy, I was hoping you would not ask me that question. No, I'm just kidding.
I was thinking about it as well. Like, no, we should probably not say it. Now, I just want to
No.
chime in and say I really like the sort of different factors that plays into this sort of anomaly, right? It could be, well, this app crashing, but it could
Mhm.
also be in relation with a potential driver update that we just released. And
Right.
then we can track it back to, okay, we now released a new driver. We know that all of a sudden we can now see that there's an anomaly that is shaping up in our environment. And then we can hopefully get that directly from the data instead of going out and test it to uninstall and revert the driver, whatever it could be, right? Because drivers, they introduce problems generally,
Mhm.
right? We all know that. So I like that fact. I think that's really useful for this feature to be able to understand if it relates to anything else that has changed in the system. That's really cool.
Absolutely. And I think I'm glad you would ask that question on a serious note. But the reason why I say that is because as I have been thinking about this whole end to end story for anomaly detection, it is incomplete without the remediation aspect of it, right? Now, again, you can look at remediation twofold, right? One, it could be a recommendation for manual remediation, or it could be automatic remediation. And honestly, uh, I have received like really mixed feedback around the approach. The reason is depending on the industry or the segment. Some folks say yeah to automatic remediation, but then some of the folks are like, no, absolutely not. We really want to see what is the suggestion and remediate it, not because of the recommendation or the confidence on the recommendation, but it is due to the nature of the industry that they belong. Right now, let's say we have a customer who is in the financial industry, and in between some major process of looking at some key migration, or it could be a process where they are really doing the last leg of account closing as part of the fiscal closure. Then in those scenarios, they really don't want to apply some kind of a remediation ASAP. They would like to vet it out. They would like to schedule it based on their availability and also based on their business downtime. But in some of the other industries, the potential to be able to do it runtime is a lot higher, right? So that's where for us, as part of this end-to-end journey, the next phase to this anomaly detection journey would be to bring in the remediation aspect of it. Again, the remediation would not be complete if we don't ensure that our customers are notified about that change, right? That's why anytime there is an automatic remediation that we go about, we want to ensure there is enough paper trail for you to know exactly what really happened. So which are some of the features that we are actively working behind the scenes? As you have seen improvements in anomaly detection, stay tuned to know more about when and how and what we are thinking about the remediation aspect of it.
Mm.
So I'm glad you both asked me that question.
Thank you. But yeah, high level, it makes sense not to do auto remediation on this because, yeah, you really don't want some living thing doing things on your clients. You want to be aware of where this, why was this fixed? Why did we see this kind of glitch in our environments? So
I,
I'm really glad that you have these thoughts around remediation as well. Makes sense.
I, I can say I'm totally with Matthias on this because I mean there's also the aspect of change freezes, change processes, all those kind of things, right? I mean, um, in the industry where I work, we apply a sort of total control method, right? Nothing more or less goes through a change process that affects more than X number of devices and so forth. And I'm assuming you're not attempting to build in a change approval sort of workflow in sort of automatic remediations, if you were to look at that. So I would definitely be in favor of giving us as much detail as possible to manually attempt to remediate, or at least give us a head start on how should we go about trying to troubleshoot this further. If you have such capabilities of presenting that data, that's way more important, I would say, than trying to just fix it for me, right? Because there could also be aspects that it's not known to the um, ML model and those kind of things, that sort of soft level things that needs to be taken into account of fixing anything. So definitely,
Absolutely.
I'm all for automation. People that know me from the past, I like to automate, but there's also balance that needs to be accounted for.
Totally. And there is another spin to this, right? Now for a minute, let's not even think about automatic remediation, right? Now, let's look at it from a perspective of recommendation for manual remediation itself. There also there is a nuance and there is an opportunity to automate if you really think about it, right? Now let's say this is the recommendation, and now as you know your ecosystem well, you're looking at it, you're like, yeah, this is a great recommendation, we really want to apply this. But then I'm not just applying it, I'm adding it to my playbook. Why? Because in future this workflow would make sense anytime we have a similar upgrade that is anticipated, or you can proactively apply this to a set of devices that have potentially not gone through an Windows upgrade process. I'm just taking that as an example, right? And then you're like, oh, can I go ahead and apply an app update version assignment first and then do a Windows update. So that way, what happens is these set of applications necessarily doesn't crash due to the incompatibility that you are seeing because of the Windows update, right? So those are some of the proactive checks that you can already take, and you can ensure that those automated workflows are part of your assignment, and you're able to look at it more as an end-to-end workflow itself. What do you
Nice.
think about that?
I like
Uh,
that.
yeah, I like that idea as well. What I think of is in the Windows Update space, having Windows 10 going out of support in 2025. That's not a long deadline for big customers.
Mhm.
Um, so having you said kind of a playbook where you could kind of schedule things would be amazing. If, let's say, you have some anomaly on some driver that prohibits you upgrading to Windows 11, for example, if you could have that running before the upgrade, making sure that everything would went smoothly on Windows 11 and so forth, and maybe afterwards even upgrading some drivers and firmware that's already built into Intune as well.
Oh, that's a great suggestion as well. Yeah. Um, we should chat more about it. But I think that's a
Lavanya
great
is taking
point.
notes.
I
Can you
am.
believe
Look, I
it?
am. I have a whiteboard next to me, and I'm like, I don't leave an opportunity when I get feedback from you all. So I'm always looking for feedback. So thank you for that. Um, are you again? I just picked one of the anomaly that we have really started looking at as a key data point. But something to kind of share is we are exploring to see if we can bring in events like compliance state of an endpoint, and also look at the various policies that resides on an endpoint. Um, Policies is not very straightforward. The reason why I say that is because sometimes you do what we have seen is there are a lot of policies that are assigned to devices, and some of them are coming from the fact that they have been migrated, and customers necessarily do not want to disturb the working internals of a given device. They want to ensure that it's all great, it's in its best state, so they are not necessarily ready to take risk of doing the needed cleanup, which is why when we are seeing events related to policies, there is a lot more that's going on, and we are actively working with you all to figure out what's like the best way to think about policies and policy related events and the assignment that's happened on a device. But I think if you have some cool ideas around policies, then I would really love to spend more deep dive session with you both, and get some thoughts as well.
I may have a small suggestion, maybe, because
Sure.
we believe, or we know for a fact now that we have gathered the data, that we have approximately a couple of hundred devices where the disk is completely filled up. There's like bytes left on the main drive, and we see that same amount of number in policy reporting failed, right? So let's say you have a BitLocker policy or whatever that's configured to set or configure BitLocker. At a certain point, it will render from either a failure or something else, simply because Intune is not able to understand if it can apply it or not because the disk is full. The agent is not able to do its work. Um, and here I would like to understand, I mean, how many policies on how many devices have not been able to be applied due to the disk is full? If that's even something that can happen, or if the OMADM agent tries to clean the disk, or I don't know if it does before it happens. But we see about the same amount of numbers that have the disk completely full, with where policies just send back a report, it failed. Um, just a thought. I don't know if it's doable. I don't know if that's fully the case yet. But I mean, it's something we've been at least thinking of a little bit. How can we understand if this is really tied to the disk being filled up or not?
Got it. So essentially, what you're seeing is devices where you have a situation with this being full, your policy assignments are not successful. I think that's the scenario. Did I capture that
E-
accurately?
Exactly, yeah. We believe that to be the case. We haven't confirmed it 100%, but the numbers look about the same in terms of failed devices on a given policy in relation to how many devices that report back once if we get the correct reporting data back
Got it.
in terms of how much data that's left.
Um,
Store space.
should we think about this more as a what if situation? Now, let's say I've created a policy, and I'm like, what if I do this assignment, and as part of this preemptive check, it is giving you a report back saying that, yeah, we did this analysis, and then these are the 1, 2, 3 devices where the deployment or the assignment will not be successful. That's kind of like the report you're looking for, correct?
Yeah, I mean, anything that could give me some sort of indication that we expect there's to be a problem here, maybe related to a disk that is
Right.
full or filled up,
Yeah,
or
and
whatever it could be, right?
yeah, and I'm thinking about this full being more of one of those examples, right? Because your policy assignment could fail due to any number of reasons, right? That's why we kind of generalize or categorize them into more common bucket of what if analysis, right? And that's kind of like a great way, because here you're not like, oh, scheduled some kind of an assignment for the night, and then you come back next morning and you figure out that, oh, you know what, that assignment has not been successful, and then you need to figure out what to do. Instead, before you wrap up for the day, if you're doing like a what if analysis and then you get the response back right away, then you have a better action plan in place.
Yeah. Or I mean, essentially, I mean, the full disk space. I know it sounds like, yeah, okay, Nikolai, are you stupid? Then just tell your users or automate something that cleans the disks and so forth. But I mean, we can't touch that part for various reasons, right? I mean, we can try to automate some of the built-in native functions in Windows to clean it up, but the users still fill them up. So I mean, we have tried what we can do, but if let's say anomaly detection could give us indications to, well, these are the devices, they are being filled up, it may be the factor of OneDrive that is the cause of this, because it's just using too much space or something like that. That I think would be like another type of item to have to do list to check for potentially.
I
Or
think
we could
based
go
on
build some custom inventory and we could just, nag the users with toast notifications or something. I don't know. There's
yeah,
ways.
No, please.
I think it's always a balance, right? You really don't want to bombard the end user with way too many notifications. So, which is where anytime we talk about notification, you really want to be very careful not to kind of annoy the end user, or even in context of our anomaly detection experience. Now, let's say I want to alert you as an IT admin and IT pro, saying that, oh, you know what, there is this anomaly that has occurred. But then if you're getting like every notification every other hour, you're like, I don't want so many notification. It is an annoyance, right? And you're like, can I have a balance of it? So that's where notification always gets tricky. And it's also sensitive to ensure that you're not kind of losing out on the engagement aspect of the application or even the experience, right? So which is where I think it needs a lot more thinking. But some of the examples that you did share, Nicolaj, I think it's apt and ideal. We should talk more about these, but we'll save it for more of a roundtable and a one-on-one session. But I think these are great pointers, so thank you for that. All right. Any other suggestion before we kind of move to our next topic?
Yeah, so if you like some anomaly on, for example, policies, that could be great, because right now we do have a gap between policies that are not in settings catalog. So let's say that we would have kind of a security baseline applied to our devices, and then we would have all sorts of policies in settings catalog, and then you have some of those policies overlapping each other. That would create a conflict on the device.
Mhm.
And if you have So a old device where you assigned one of them first, you will get the setting applied. But the new devices you do through modern provisioning, something like that, would just get the conflict and not any setting, right? That would be the outcome. It could be nice to have a kind of anomaly detection saying, hey, you do have this value configured from this policy, and you do have this value from this policy, and they are conflicting on so many devices. Do you want to resolve it? Some kind of that. I know we have a report already. We can go to devices, we can go to uh, monitoring, and then we have assignment failures. But what that shows is only, well, all these devices have a conflict. It doesn't actually show you what policy it's conflicting with. And that anomaly detection could help with, I think.
I am 100% in agreement with the scenario that you're talking about, right? And if we are able to get this, in fact, one of the other thinking and a thought process around this also is, if let's say you have an X number of policies, right? Is there like a smart and a cool way to look at all of the existing policies and talk about some of the underlying conflicts that exist, right? You could have a repetition. The reason is, let's say today Nicholas was managing the given tenant, and he had created few policies, but then there is no kind of a knowledge transfer that's happened. He just decided to change companies, and then Matthias, you and I are the new admins in the organization, and we are like, okay, what does this person Nicholas do? What policies has he created? Now, do we have enough time to go back, look at all the existing policies, or is it easier to create new set of policies? You and I just decide, oh, let's go ahead and create new set of policies, but then it leads to a conflicting situation, right? How do we resolve those? I think that's a very common use case, and it's not a cooked up story, right? Though, Nicholas, we don't want you to leave the company that you're working for, but I just thought it's a great example.
I really like
Take a
the
hint, Nicola.
storytelling. Yeah, I'll let
Oh
my
my God.
boss know tomorrow. No
Oh
worries.
my God. I'm going to get into trouble for this.
No, 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 not at all.
This is a great example. All right, I'm going to keep our audience moving. How about we jump to the next topic?
Let's do so. Yes.
Awesome.
Let's move.
Okay. Oh, for this feature, I was just thinking I will just present the slide and then I will say, I'm done for the session. Ta-da! Now I'm going to do some walkthrough of this feature as well. But I think this is super exciting, and I get passionate when I talk about setting things inside as much as I'm passionate about anomaly detection. The reason for that is both of these are backed by AI ML models behind the scenes. And the more models we bring into picture, we are kind of trying to do a lot of the data crunching and processing and running it through the various models, training it with all of the ever evolving customer data, which is so much needed. So here, the reason why we considered a scenario like this is, we all know, policies are so critical to a given endpoint in context of the broader big scheme of the tenant management itself, and which is where, when there are X number of settings that's presented in a scenario where our admins are the ever evolving as from their leadership team, how do we kind of help them in this journey? How do we elevate the process is kind of like thinking behind the scenes, which is where we really want to be able to provide you with some kind of a, think about it like a cheat sheet or some kind of a tailored insights based on what we are learning from tenants similar to yours, right? So they are an organization that potentially are in the same kind of an industry, with approximately same kind of devices or a range of devices falling into the same category that you belong to, and couple of other key attributes that we leverage. And we run what we call as the K clustering model to identify these clusters and come up with insights that comply with Microsoft's recommendation. And we say these are some of the insights for you to consider for the settings as you're thinking about your policies that needs to be created. Now, we have started off with already a good curated list of settings that exist in baselines, and we eventually are thinking about extrapolating this capability into settings catalog and other policies that exist. The reason it is not very straightforward when we think about it in context of settings catalog is primarily because of the nature of the industry our customers belong, and also the number of settings that we have. If we end up providing a recommendation for many settings, will that really be beneficial if we are providing it into multiple policy as an offering, or should it all be bundled under a single policy? Those are some of the considerations behind the scenes that we are actively discussing with some of the celebrities that you're all aware of, our dear friend Mike Donald. Yeah, stay tuned for what's going to come up in settings catalog. And sorry, I had to go through this long spiel of talking about this because this is such an important and a strategic area for Intune that we just cannot provide recommendations for many settings. We want to be able to provide insights for optimal number of settings that is relevant for the organization based on what we learn. I really want to call out an important aspect here because there is cross-tenant analytics that we are doing here. But a given customer's content doesn't leave the data boundary and all the data and compliance policies that is applied behind the scenes to our model training. So we call that out because it is so important and it always makes our customers anxious when we say cross-tenant analytics. And hence my call out. How is that for a starting, Matthias and Nicholas? Should we deep dive into the into the experience that we have? Did my host leave me?
We
Did I
Yeah,
didn't
lose my
leave you, but
host?
it's lagging a
Oh,
little bit, but we're still here at least.
oh,
but
awesome.
yes,
Okay.
let's
Let's
dive
get
into
into
it
it.
because yeah, it sounds really interesting.
How about I say that it is also going to be an interesting one? All right. Does this
We like
blade look
that.
familiar?
It does.
Yeah,
Nicholas,
maybe.
how about you?
I may have seen it in the past. I don't know. What is this? Is this in Intune, right? Is it? No. Sorry, it's getting late over here.
I can totally imagine. Let me ship some coffee along with the awesome settings inside as well. So this is the baselines, security baselines, and I have picked up the security baselines for Microsoft Edge because we have started our initial availability of this feature with couple of baselines, and also this is part of our default Intune offering, and this is not part of the Intune suite. So that's another thing that I did want to call out as we were talking about it. Now these are some existing policies that's available. First, let's talk about creating a profile itself, and I want to give this some fancy name to keep this exciting.
That's the cool guys.
And here, what you see is a very interesting light bulb, and you must be wondering what is this light bulb all about, and why is this showing up for a given category, right? Now, this is an indicative that there are some insights that's available for the settings underlying this bigger category called Microsoft Edge. And if you are picking up another profile which falls into a different selection category, then you will see insights for a different set as well. Now, here we explicitly call out that this setting insight is based on the recommendation that is coming from similar organization like yours and also complying to Microsoft's recommendation is where there is a setting and an insight that is available for you to pick from. So here you don't need to go back and do your crazy amount of research to figure out, oh, what is all this about? What are these various settings? What does it do behind the scenes, right? We are upfront saving a lot of time and avoiding all of the research work that needs to happen behind the scenes, because this is like a great reinforcement, because organizations similar to yours are also using it, Microsoft is also recommending it. This is a double thumbs up, right? And this is a great situation to be in, where you say, great, let me go ahead and select all of these, and again, based on your business needs and your endpoint needs, you can always opt in to change the setting, right? This is only a suggestion or a recommendation. This is not like a strict boundary or a guideline that you absolutely need to follow, right? So this, once you have this selected, you go ahead and you go through the same process, right? That means here there is no new learning that needs to happen. It's all similar to the regular profile that you create, and it is all part of that process where you look at what are the insights that's available, and as I create the profile, this is all available right now. Let's say there is an existing profile for which I want to really go back and take a look at, is there even like an insight or a recommendation that's available? So here you do see that yes, for Microsoft Edge, there is insight that's available. And if you want to edit it, you have an option to go through the existing edit workflow and make adjustments, right? That means today you feel a need to use a setting based on what other organization like yours or Microsoft is recommending. But see, let's say tomorrow your business need changes and then you have to make the change, then you can always edit an existing policy and apply it to the set of devices that really falls into the criteria. So this is kind of end to end how this whole feature works. Our dear host, what do you think?
Yeah, I see the potential here, and I also have some thoughts maybe I would like to share with you. So I really like the insights and also the kind of learning experience that other sets, for example, allow unconfigured sites to be reloaded to disabled. But if I could add something, I would have like a comment field or maybe another drop down side by side saying, so why are you setting this? So maybe you could learn a little bit from these companies why you put in these settings for Edge. That could be a great learning experience for those who set those policies. Why is it important to set this for disabled? Like, well, uh, maybe you shouldn't use the Internet Explorer mode for unconfigured sites. Like,
I can give an example like this. I mean, for all the security baselines that we run, we have a separate Excel sheet really outlining why do we do this. Okay, first of all, it's either from CIS or something different. What is this setting? Okay, why is the recommended value like this? Well, there's a description in there. But then we have an override sort of column saying, okay, here's the comment why this company that I work for has decided to not use this specific recommended setting or settings value from the insights, simply because we have a different way that we need to make use of this, or we have some legacy, or we use it differently, right? So I can definitely say that if you could have a comments field in here, I would be glad to, throw out the Excel sheet that I need to manage and maintain, and just pull it in here. That would be so amazing. It's maybe not related to the insights in this aspect, but I would say it's a next evolution of the whole sort of helping us to use the product in an easier way, right? And make easier decisions and understand why that decision was made at some point.
Just let's double click this a little more, because I think this is the first time I'm getting this feedback and it's a very interesting one. But I'm also trying to tread the path of being careful in terms of how much of commentary or a comment section we want to provide against each of these settings, right? Now, let's play this out a little bit, because this is security baseline and there are external standard bodies that kind of help provide this curated list, right? Now, based on that recommendation, why they are suggesting something to be disabled is the commentary you're looking for, or is the commentary more around why, let's say, Nikolaj's organization decided to use the setting as disabled, and as Matthias is trying to build his policy, that commentary about other organizations would help him. I'm trying to decipher between the two, and hence trying to distinguish between the commentary in my head as well. Right now, is it more around the settings related commentary, or is it more around organization like yours, why they have selected that setting and a commentary associated with that?
My initial thinking was about our own sakes, to be able to keep track of the settings, and why we selected a different value, for instance.
I see.
If the comments would be shared, it would absolutely need to be 100% crystal clear that that data is shared with different customers to Microsoft, for sure. And yeah, maybe not my initial thought, at least, but I
Okay.
can definitely see where it may have value, because I mean, somebody chose to set it to disabled. It could be very different to me to set allow users to proceed to the HTTPS warning page without, because we may have some very stupid applications set up with some, well, I don't know, really bad certificates for some sort, right? So, I mean, it could be that we need to have a reason for circumventing or setting a different value. And what I was looking for was to be able to, for my own purpose, be able to track this. It's great that I get the insight. It's great that I get the recommendation and all that. But in order for me to be able to understand when it's being looked at, let's take the example that I quit my job, right? Like we all know here that I'm going to do tomorrow. Just kidding. Uh, well, if I didn't do my job well, and kept all of this separate, right? I mean, why did we actually create this policy with these values? Um,
Hmm.
the more we can move into the portal, and have a sort of track record of this was selected, this and this or that, by this or this person, with this reason, I think that could be really, really interesting. Because I mean, if you were to use the description field of the policy, I mean, it would be so long and you would not really keep track of it. Or you could use a separate process like we do. I mean, it's just extremely tedious to
Agreed.
set it up originally. Once you have it, it's easier, but the amount of effort initially, that's tough. Um,
I think that's a great point, right? Especially when you think about it, for a given profile, having a description column versus a complementary side-by-side view. I think what you're looking for was more side-by-side view. And also, thanks for clarifying, right? Because for me, a customer commentary is also a customer content, right? If that's an insight that you're looking for, then we need to have consent from the customer before it can be shared. And also, it's going to be a very thin line that we are going to tread, because sometimes it can be overwhelming amount of feedback that we could be sharing also. Right now, let's say for example, um, there are multiple customers who have said it's okay for this feedback to be shared, and then for every single setting, if you have way too many of these feedback, it just gets noisy, which is where I think what you're asking for is the former thinking that I had, which is more around you kind of in some form or shape keeping a log as to why you selected something as disabled or enabled. And let's say tomorrow you quit the job. Not that I'm saying you're going to quit, but Matthias and I just are anticipating that you might quit the job. In such a scenario, I think when we join the organization, we know exactly why a setting was disabled or enabled. And I think there is an absolutely great amount of potential to that suggestion. So let me let me vet this out a little more with my engineering team, because here I cannot say that, oh, I'll pass on this feedback to some other PM because I'm the PM for this feature. So let me give this some more thinking because I
Sorry.
think it's okay. It's all good, and you know how much I love all this feedback coming my way. But I think there is great potential to this. So I'm trying to think this through from a technical standpoint. What could be some of the considerations, and also every time we do any enhancements to an existing page. There is a lot of research that our UX research team does behind the scenes to be able to figure out that we are not disrupting the experience for our customers, and we are really kind of looking at it more holistically and ensuring that the experience is seamless. So let me have a chat more around this. But I think it's an absolutely great suggestion, Nikolash. Please don't leave the company. Don't get me and Matthias into trouble.
No, don't. But
I
if
thought
you're
Matthias had a job offer for me, so no
if
problem.
if your job is free, I might apply for that. No.
Let's all fly to Redmond and work for Microsoft. Well,
Yes.
we'll start tomorrow. Good stuff.
Do you need another PM, Lavanya? Well,
Oh, you have a PM ready for me? Is that Nikolash?
Nikolai is coming.
Turned down immediately, like, no, not Nikolai. Come on.
That's great. So I think, folks, this is what I really had to share with you both and with the awesome audience of your channel. I'm happy to answer more questions, but for a minute, let's pause and see if our cool guys have anything more to add here.
No, I don't really think we have. We are approaching 1 hour here, and that's the absolute maximum of videos. But I think this interview and this sharing of your insights here, Lavanya, was absolutely great. I haven't been this deep into the products that you just showed us, so it was a great learning experience, and I hope it will be for those who view this video as well. And yeah, Nikolai, anything on closing notes here before we say goodbye?
No, I fully agree with you. This has been super learning. Super learning. That's, you can't say that. Super helpful and a great learning experience. I totally agree. Like it's almost 10:30 over here in Sweden where we are, so the words get lost in translation. I don't know. No, but thank you so much, Lavanya, for being with us for this first episode of our new series. We truly love to have you on this, and thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely. I am so thrilled. And when you said this is the first series of the new new track, I was like super thrilled. I did have a little bit of goosebumps, and I was also a little scared of my dear friend Matthias because he always asked me the hard questions. But I think today, Nicola, for whatever reason, you took over that from him. Matthias, you've been my best friend.
Bad cop, good cop. That's how we play.
You know what we have learned, at least, Matthias? We have learned that we need to say, hello, speaker, would you like to introduce yourself? Because I totally forgot that in the beginning. But thank you, Lavanya, for being an experienced speaker and bringing it up and correcting our mistakes. That's what it's all about.
See that, and you can actually use the newbie card, right? You can just say, "Oh, this is the first time we are doing this recording, so next time we're going to fix all of this problem."
We're going to be way better next time. No, of course not. But
absolutely,
again, thank you so much. This has been really great.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
We really had a great time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.